Hello everyone, welcome back to the Crossroads YouTube channel. My name is Delphine and I'm a junior at Concord Carlisle High School. Today we are going to be reading a couple of books about Juneteenth. June 19th, or Juneteenth, is a holiday celebrated to remember the emancipation or freedom of enslaved people in the United States. The first book we're going to be reading is called The History of Juneteenth by Maximilian Smith. Another Independence Day. In the United States, Independence Day is July 4th. However, there's another Independence Day celebrated on June 19th. It honors the special day in 1865 when slaves in Texas were told they were free at last. The Emancipation Proclamation. On January 1st, 1863, U.S. President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. Emancipation is the act of freeing. Lincoln's proclamation or statement freed more than 3 million slaves living in Confederate states. Here's Abraham Lincoln in this meeting here. Some of the freed slaves escaped and joined the Union Army. However, many slaves never received the news. By the end of May 1865, all Confederate armies had surrendered or given up, yet some slaves still didn't know that they were free. The first celebration. On June 19, 1865, Union soldiers led by General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas. This was more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. The soldiers told the slaves there that they had been freed. The slaves began to celebrate. And here is General Gordon Granger. On June 19, 1866, a year later, former slaves in Texas again celebrated hearing the news. They prayed, sang special songs, and wore new clothes. Even after they moved away, many blacks returned to Galveston to celebrate June 19th each year. Juneteenth today. Today, June 19th, is called Juneteenth Emancipation Day or Juneteenth Independence Day. Many other states besides Texas honor this day, and African Americans aren't the only ones celebrating. People of all races take part. Today's Juneteenth celebrations include prayer services and speeches in which African Americans remember and take pride in their past. There are also rodeos and festivals with special music, food, and dancing. Many towns and cities hold parades. Even other countries celebrate Juneteenth. They set it aside as a special time to remember the end of slavery and the beginning of freedom. Next Juneteenth, find a Juneteenth celebration near you or start your own. So, I hope this book taught you a little bit more about the history behind the holiday. There were a lot of big words in this short story, so my question for you is, did you learn any new vocabulary? For example, could you explain to someone what the word emancipation means? The next book that we're going to be reading today is called Juneteenth for Mazie by Floyd Cooper. Here's the cover. Mazie wants to play outside, but it's too late. It's getting dark, Mazie. It's time to stay inside. But Mazie wants a cookie. But it's time for bed. Not now, little one. It's too close to bedtime. Mazie wants to stay up late, but she is too little. Bedtime is the rule, sweet girl. Why so grumpy, Sugar Bear? Asks Dad. I can't go where I want, have what I want, or do what I want, answers Mazie. Well, tomorrow you can have a celebration, says Dad. What are we celebrating? Asks Mazie. We will celebrate the day your great-great-great-grandpa Mose crossed into liberty. The day will be celebrated by us and many more families on a day we call Juneteenth. Dad lifts Mazie into his arms. I bet you're tired of hearing no all the time. Well, great-great-great-grandpa Mose heard no even more. Grandpa Mose worked in fields that stretched all the way to sunset. He and the other slaves would be bone tired, but they had to keep going. Their masters wouldn't let them quit. But as they worked, they thought about freedom. And before they finally went to sleep at night, they prayed about freedom and made plans for change and a better future. Some slaves ran north to freedom, following a bright star in the sky. They sweat, they bled, and they cried till those cries were quieted by a single proclamation from a brave president. Grandpa Mose heard that proclamation read from the balcony of the hotel on that warm June day in Galveston, Texas. Grandpa Mose heard nothing but cheers, saw nothing but sadness, and felt nothing but pride shared by those all around him. The cheers became dancing. The dancing became celebrating. It went on and on into the night. Grandpa Mose and the others had found freedom. They continued to work, but this time they were paid for their hard work. So they worked, and they saved, and they never forgot the moment they heard, the moment that changed their lives forever. But things weren't perfect. Black people still struggled to stand shoulder to shoulder with white people. They still weren't treated as equals. It wasn't easy, but they never gave up. And every year on Juneteenth, they remembered. They marched for jobs, they lobbied for schools and the right to vote, they shouted for opportunity. And every year on Juneteenth, they celebrated and remembered. They learned and they grew. They forgave. They excelled and achieved. They became heroes. Now, sweet Mazie, it's your turn to celebrate just like great-great-great-grandpa Mose. It's your turn, Mazie, to eat some barbecue and drink some strawberry pop. It's your turn to celebrate. And to remember. This is just a little bit of a note at the end of the book that I'll read to you. On June 19th, 1865, soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, announcing the end of the Civil War and the end of slavery in the United States. It was more than 2 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. Celebrated every year on June 19th, Juneteenth commemorates the announcement of the abolition of slavery and the emancipation of African American citizens throughout the entire United States. Now that we've read a couple of books about Juneteenth, why is celebrating Juneteenth so important? And what is the way that you can celebrate Juneteenth? Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Crossroads. If you haven't already watched our previous videos, definitely check them out. In other exciting news, Crossroads will be partnering with the Concord Public Library this summer. If you have enjoyed our videos and want to support our program, please consider signing up with the link in the description. Thanks for watching and see you next time.